Spider-Man might be best known for web swinging, wall crawling, and always having a quip or two ready to annoy an enemy, but did you know that he's also a bit of a fashionista? That's why today we'll be counting down the top 10 most powerful Spider-Man suits. Coming in at number 10, we have the outfit of Spider-Man Noir. In an alternate version of the Marvel Universe in which Peter Parker was raised during the Great Depression of the 1930s, he wound up gaining his spider powers after breaking a spider totem that contained multiple magical spiders. Hiding his secret identity with a costume inspired by the pilot uniforms of World War I era bombers, just like his Uncle Ben had been, this suit came complete with holsters for the era-appropriate pistols that Spider-Man Noir was fond of carrying, alongside a brooding trench coat essential for any moody detective. Might not have any special abilities or extra protections for Peter, but hey, at least it makes him look pretty damn cool. Coming in at number 9, we have the Future Foundation costume. During a period of time in which the Fantastic Four had decided to expand and rebrand themselves into the white-wearing Future Foundation, Spider-Man was asked to join the main team of 4 following the apparent death of Johnny Storm. As part of this brief career change, Spidey began wearing the white Future Foundation outfit, which allowed him to easily change in and out of civilian clothing and showed that Spider-Man was a full-fledged uniform-wearing member of a superhero team for the first time. And while he'd eventually go back to his classic red and blue color scheme, it definitely was a striking change-up for the spectacular Spider-Man. Coming in at number 8, we have Spider-Man's stealth costume, aka the Big Time suit. Following an intense battle with a new and improved Hobgoblin, Peter Parker knew he needed some upgrades if he wanted to take down his foe without too much injury. Given that he was working for Horizon Labs at the time, Peter wound up using their technology to create the black and green Big Time stealth suit, allowing himself to turn completely invisible to the naked eye and also be capable of surviving the Hobgoblin's sonic-based attacks. As a final benefit, this costume is also capable of repairing itself, able to mend its own fabric back together in a way that comes quite in handy given how often Spider-Man seems to get his mask half torn off his face. Coming in at number 7, we've got to go with the classic Spider-Man suit, aka the one you think of when you think of Spider-Man. Ever since he first upgraded from a wrestling outfit, Spider-Man has been best known for his iconic blue, red, and webbed costume design, and to this day it's still one of my personal favorite superhero costumes. While not possessing any extra powers or defenses by itself, the classic suit has always allowed Peter Parker to hide his identity behind a colorful and wisecracking mask, and seems to integrate well with both his web shooters and utility belt. And while there may be more powerful suits still to come on this list, I don't know if any of them could be quite this stylish. Coming in at number 6, we have the Spider Armor Mark III. Also known as the Anti-Sinister 6 armor, this suit was developed at the same time as the Big Time suit using Horizon Labs technology, but intended only to be used as a last resort, which, of course, it wound up having to be used because of Dr. Octopus's scheme to flood and destroy Manhattan. With built-in web shooters and an incredible amount of weaponry and defense protocols woven into the suit, the Mark III has countermeasures for every known member of the Sinister Six, which made Spider-Man powerful enough to lead the entire Avengers team in a final push to defeat Doc Ock's plan.
Number 5, Wicked Smart. I just like saying wicked smart. Or just wicked as an adverb, really. Wicked is a cool adverb. I really love adverbs. Of course, as I said earlier, the reason why people sometimes make the assumption that Peter's webs are always organic when they are only sporadically organic is because they forget just how smart he is. Yes, Peter is sweet, kind, and sometimes teeters on the edge of falling completely apart, but there is more to him than all of that. He doesn't only have a good heart, but he also has a great brain. Hence how he was able to create his own web shooters to begin with, and also hence his love of academics and science. Peter isn't just your average smarty either in the Marvel Universe, no siree. He has been considered one of the great intellectual minds, rubbing elbows with the likes of Reed Richards, Iron Man, Black Panther, and Bruce Banner. Number 4, Venom Blast. Venom Blast is an iconic power that fans of Spider-Man might not be familiar with, but fans of Jessica Drew's Spider-Woman likely will be. Venom Blasts don't actually involve venom either, so the name for this power is kind of a misnomer. However, that didn't stop Spider-Woman from the 1970s cartoon shouting out the name of this power every time she used it. Venom Blast! It's like the louder you shout it, the more powerful it is. The Venom Blast power is actually electrical in nature. Jessica has the ability to produce excess bioelectricity which she can then channel into a blast, allowing her to shock, stun, or even kill her opponents. In fact, this is also a power that Jess has had to practice with and hone over the years so she can avoid killing people with it because it is just that powerful. I feel like that's actually a lot of Jessica Drew's powers. She's like, I have to hone this because it's just too crazy. Practice is important, especially if you have superpowers. Number 3. Magic. At least for a time in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, Peter had this one. For a short time, but it happened. He actually was given the Eye of Agamotto by Doctor Strange for a time and ended up possessing temporarily all the powers of the Sorcerer Supreme. In the Ultimate Spider-Man animated series, Peter also kind of trains with Doctor Strange, or at least hangs out with him, and he gets some immunity to magic from his time spent with the famed sorcerer. Granted, the magic that Peter has in this series is temporary, but it should also be noted that Spider-Man's origin was actually tweaked in the decade leading up to the Spider-Verse event in the comics, making him actually more mystical just as a character in the main continuity of 616. We learned that Spider-Man's origins weren't only based in the realm of science, but that the bite that he suffered from that radioactive spider was also somewhat fated, and was considered a gift from the spider, or more specifically the Other, which is kind of the spider, the great spider being that Spider-Man is attached to, turning Spider-Man into one of many spider totems throughout the Marvel Universe. Totems are basically figures throughout the Marvel Universe who are connected in a supernatural way to the spirit of an animal. In Spider Totem's case, it's spiders. Number 2. Venom Punch. Okay, so maybe you know about Jessica Drew's Venom Blast, but did you know that Spider-Man is also capable of emitting bioelectricity powers himself? Miles Morales' Spider-Man also possesses the power to channel his excess bioelectricity into blasts and shocking beams of concussive energy. But he also has another unique power he can pull off using his extra stores of bioelectricity. That would be his Venom Punch. Miles the Spider-Man can actually channel his bioelectricity into his punches, basically supercharging them. So not only are you feeling the pain of that super strong punch, because he's also got super strength, but also the pain from electric fists if you get hit by him. Honestly, Miles is probably one of the wildest power sets of all the spider folks around. He's got lots of cool unique powers and is like crazy OP. Just another reason to love Miles Morales. Number 1. Pheromone powers. Jessica Drew actually possesses these powers, although we might sometimes forget about them. They don't come up very often, and I think that's kind of because Jessica likes to use them sparingly. They are kind of weird powers. Also, it's hard to write powers like these without the issue of consent coming up. They do kind of inherently seem to lend better to villains than heroes because of that. However, one of my favorite moments when it comes to Jessica Drew's aka Spider-Woman's use of these powers is when she partnered with the Hulk and used them to help control and calm him, helping to combat his tendency to rage and hone that in. She proved that she could help take control of the Hulk by influencing him to make her a sandwich, which is pretty harmless and just kind of funny. Also, Jessica kind of shot herself in the foot with that one because the Hulk making a sandwich it's gonna be a bit of a mess of a sandwich. But he tried, he did his best. It was still a good sandwich, Hulk. I give it a thumbs up. Number 10. Spidey tracking. Cindy Moon has a pretty intense connection with Peter Parker. Cindy is a superhero we know as Silk, who happens to be a spider-themed hero herself, who got her powers from a radioactive spider bite as well. The same spider, in fact, as the one who gave Spider-Man his powers. Because of this, they have an unspoken connection which allows Cindy to be able to track Peter to the point that he could be almost anywhere in the multiverse and she'd be able to find him. Granted, this power really only works with the two heroes because they're so closely connected to one another. Still, I didn't even know that was a power that Silk had. I learned that too when I was writing this list. So, yay. Number 9. Perfect balance. If you think you know what great balance is, you probably don't. At least not at the same level of great balance for someone as agile as Spider-Man. For Spider-Man, his ability to balance is insane. This is because Spider-Man has an enhanced equilibrium, and what's even more crazy is in the alternate reality of the MC2 line known as Earth 982, Peter is actually not alone. In fact, in that reality, he's even surpassed by another spider-themed hero, his daughter, Mayday Parker, Spider-Girl, who later becomes known as Spider-Woman. May's equilibrium is even better than her dad's in this universe, meaning that she is more agile and has an even better sense of balance, which is pretty crazy because Peter can already balance on like pretty much anything on just like the tip of a finger or a toe and do so in almost any position. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want to learn about more unknown or more obscure spider powers, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. There's lots out there. There's lots of weird, cool Spider-Man powers. Number 8. Radiation resistance. It turns out that Spider-Man, having been bit by a radioactive spider, actually gained a semi-immunity to radiation poisoning. Radiation, of course, can still hurt Spider-Man, but it takes a lot of it to do any significant damage to him. In other words, if you've ever played Fallout and taken some Rad X before heading into a super irradiated area, that's kinda like what we're talking about here. Instead of radiation killing Spider-Man, it usually just leaves him feeling weak. Of course, like anything, if he is exposed to too much radiation, it can do damage and even potentially kill him. So he's not completely immune to it, just not as sensitive as many standard humans are. We're very sensitive to radiation, so take that Rad X and I don't know, get bit by a radioactive spider, I guess, if you want some protection from it. Or just, you know, avoid it. That's a good way to live life. Avoid radiation. Number 7. Spider Whisperer. One version of Spider-Man can even communicate with spiders, in a way. And okay, maybe not a Spider-Man specifically. For this point, we're focusing on Kane Parker, clone of Peter Parker, initially known for his brooding, violent and villainous ways, and long dramatic hair. Now, however, Kane is a hero in the comics who still is kinda broody, but not as broody as he was originally. During his time as Scarlet Spider, he made an appearance in the 2014 New Warriors series. Here, in issue number 3, we get to see that Kane has a unique spider-based power. That is, he can communicate with spiders. Now, while he can't directly command them to do his bidding, Kane's power does give him a sort of empathic connection to the spiders around him. Still, pretty neat, and honestly seems like a power that should be a thing for all spider folks, even though it is a surprisingly rare one in the realm of the Spider-Man multiverse. Like, I'm surprised that not every spider person can communicate with spiders. Just seems logical, and yet. Number 6. Organic webbing. Oddly enough, this one might be a power that you already thought you knew about, but in most cases, it's actually not a thing. A lot of people think it's a thing when it's not, and then sometimes it weirdly is. I hope that makes sense. Spider-Man's web shooters are actually an invention that Peter Parker, or usually any other spider totem of the week, invented for their own use. Some fans think that this webbing is a part of Spider-Man's power set, but it's standardly a part of his equipment kit. However, this isn't always the case, and there have been a few times in the comics where the webbing for our hero has actually been organic, literally coming out from his own wrists, which is really weird and kinda icky, and not really a thing that we needed, but you know, we got it anyways. Silk is another spider-themed hero which has also had this power set of organic webbing, although in a bit of a cooler vein, at least in my opinion, and in terms of her character design. She also uses her webbing to create her suits at times when she has to jump into action unexpectedly. This gives Silk not only a pretty unique power, but also an unique look too.
Number 5. Superior Spider-Man. This variation of the Spider-Man is unique for this list. It is Peter Parker from Earth 616, only his body is actually inhabited by the mind of Otto Octavius, Dr. Octopus. But he isn't evil. No, being in the body of Peter gave Otto an insight into Peter's life and motivation, and actually gave him a change of heart. Now we have a Spider-Man with all the powers of Peter Parker, but the super genius intellect of Otto, who vowed to dedicate himself to being the best Spider-Man he could in honor of Peter, who had seemingly been de-lifed while inhabiting Otto's body. And boy, he did that vow justice. The combo of that body with this mind helped him to be one of the strongest versions of Spider-Man ever, with a new enhanced suit and a ruthless way of dealing with criminals. He would eventually sacrifice himself to allow Peter to come back to inhabit his body once again. But man, was this a powerful main universe variant. Number 4. Miles Morales. He is possibly one of the most popular variants of Spider-Man to come into the Marvel multiverse. And for good reason. Miles Morales is an incredible character. He has almost all the regular spider abilities plus some amazing powers unique to himself. Namely, his Venom, which is like a form of bioelectricity that he can emit from his body and use in some really cool ways, like in punches, beams, and blasts, as well as at long range using his webbing. But it doesn't stop there. He is also able to use a spider camouflage to make his whole body and even his clothes and costume go invisible. And he is apparently immortal, as a side effect of the Oz formula that gave him his abilities. Miles hails from the Ultimate Universe of Earth 1610, which fits, because he is an ultimate version of Spider-Man. Number 3, Zombie Spider-Man. I know a lot of people are tired of hearing about Marvel zombies. Well, too bad! He's a powerful version of Spider-Man, so you know what? Just kind of deal with it, okay? Cool, alright. Yes, Zombie Spider-Man is essentially the same Spider-Man everyone is used to. All the same powers, at least. Except, after being bit by a zombie, he now also has a ravenous hunger that cannot be sated no matter what, which led him and a group of other heroes to consume the Silver Surfer and Galactus, which gave them all the power cosmic. With this power cosmic, the zombie Galacti have the ability to absorb and tap into ambient cosmic energy into their bodies at will and expel those energies, like channeling beams of energy through their hands with destructive force and teleporting through time and space, devouring entire planets. With this power, they have the potential to phase through objects, accelerate the evolution of life forms, see the past by peeling back the layers of time travel, and manipulate, absorb, and discharge any form of energy or radiation. Though Spider Zombie loses all of his power, he still had it, and was an incredibly powerful version of Spider-Man. Number 2, Penny Parker. This Parker from Earth 14512 doesn't actually have any powers of her own. So how is she at the number 2 spot? Because of the totally awesome mech SP//DR suit worn by her father before his demise, and that is half controlled by a radioactive spider. First appearing in Edge of Spider-Verse number 5 in October of 2014, Penny and the Spider Mech are essentially able to do anything, as she doesn't actually have any written limitations yet. Yes, that's a lame reason for her to be so powerful, but it is a legit reason all the same. The mech suit is outfitted with weapons for basically any situation a story calls for, and defenses that would put pretty much any other Spider-Man to shame. Why is she not higher up? Well, because all this could very easily change, and also because there is one variant of Spider-Man who is an ultimate universal threat. Number 1, Bully Maguire. The dance moves, the hair, the suit, able to flirt with anyone, demands promotions with a flick of his hair, unaffected by social norms, finger guns that could bring down an entire neighborhood, and a swagger that has everyone and their moms turning their heads. He is Bully Maguire. First appearing in Spider-Man 3 in 2007, this variation of Spider-Man has underneath his devilish suits a black Venom bonded spider suit that enhances his abilities and personality and gives him the awesome ability to throw some dirt in your eye that will make you lose your job. But if you want forgiveness, get religion. Bully Maguire has the unique ability to take to the internet, invading many different realities, including our own. Because of this, he has gone up against and shamed too many opponents to count. Thanos, Steve Harvey from Family Feud, President Joe Biden, Will Smith, characters in Star Wars, SpongeBob SquarePants, and the list goes on and on and on and continues to grow. There is truly no one safe from Bully Maguire, even me. Shout out to Arishan the Judge, who commented, Bully Maguire is one of the most powerful beings in the universe. He possesses presumably all the same powers as the Prime Spider-Man. You weren't wrong and you inspired me, so thank you. Number 10, Twinkie Spider-Man. Woody Harrelson's character from Zombieland would be ecstatic. While originally a crossover advertisement deal between Hostess, you know, the company that owns Twinkies, Snowballs, and those cupcake snack pastries, and Marvel, the Spider-Man of Earth 51914 is an official member of the Spider-Verse, being defeated by Morlun in the first Spider-Verse comic in 2014. This sweet Spider-Man has all the same powers as our 616 spider-based hero, only he has the added benefit of using Hostess snacks as equipment to distract, lure, and reason with criminals, and even get out of tight spots in his relationships, like when he gave Mary Jane a cupcake so he could slip away to fight crime. Yeah, using his pastry-based equipment, he was able to defeat The Fly, Printout Man, Simon the Evil Swami, Madame Web, legal eagle, an unnamed jewel thief, chairman, homewrecker, demolition derby, photo man, hotshot, Junjitsu, Larsenius Lil, and the human computer. So yeah, that's not just a sponsor, it's an added ability that puts him a cut above any regular old Spider-Man. Number 9. Spider-Man Noir. When darkness falls on New York City, only one hero in a black fedora and a trench coat can use his keen detective skills and the powers bestowed upon him from a spider god to solve crimes and protect the citizens. It's Spider-Man, see? A grittier, more serious and ruthless world calls for a Peter Parker who is much the same, and a Spider-Man Noir is definitely that guy. After he seeks out revenge on the Goblin for taking away the life of his Uncle Ben, he goes to a warehouse where a spider idol containing thousands of spiders is broken. One of these spiders bites Peter, and zim zim zalabim, Peter has visions of a spider god and is granted abilities. Spider-Man Noir may not be the most powerful character in the Spider-Verse, but he has the power of popularity on his side, being a fan favorite character ever since his introduction, which is why, in my opinion, he is one of the only Spider-Men to survive Morlun, despite whatever excuses the comics gave. Number 8. Peyton Parnell. I think this is the most terrifying version of Spider-Man I have ever seen. Maybe even more so than Spiders-Man. Peyton Parnell, or Patton Parnell, is nothing like Peter Parker. He's a sociopath, a maniac, and he has the ability to transform into a monster spider-slash-man hybrid with 8 eyes, 8 limbs, and massive spider-like fangs. Seeing this bald monster thing crawl around your walls and your ceiling, that's scary enough, but knowing he ate at least 3 people, including his uncle, and can implant hundreds and hundreds of baby spiders into you just by biting you, is absolutely nightmare-inducing. Luckily, he gets defeated pretty soon after his creation by Morlun, but at the time Patton Parnell from Earth 51412 was around, he was very powerful and very scary. Number 7. Spider-Ham. Hailing from a verse where all the Marvel characters are replaced with cartoon character animal versions of themselves, Peter Porker is Spider-Ham, a pig. Peter Porker was actually born a spider named Peter, and he lived in the basement lab of May Porker, a scientist who had created the world's first atomic-powered hairdryer. May Porker, using the atomic hairdryer, accidentally irradiated herself, and then bit Peter the Spider, which made him turn into an anthropomorphic pig, just like her, only with the relative powers of a spider. In his premiere issue, he would go on to do battle with Hulk Bunny, created when Bruce Bunny was trapped in an arcade cabinet and bombarded with gamma radiation. Look, I wish I was making all this up. I really do. Spider-Ham has most of the same abilities as 616 Spider-Man, only he has this rather unique ability called Spider Nonsense, which basically allows him to be more and more cartoony the more danger he is in, which is the perfect reason to have the wackiest nonsense happen that will save this piggy hide in some of the most imaginative ways possible. This power alone helps him to be an extremely powerful Spider-Man, or pig. Number 6. Takayuya Yamashiro. Instead of being Peter Parker, the Japanese Spider-Man, Supaidaman, is Takuya Yamashiro, a motocross racer and son of astrophysicist Dr. Hiroshi Yamashiro. Unlike most versions of Spider-Man, Takayuya was introduced through a live-action Japanese Spider-Man TV show. With that, his character differs quite a bit. For starters, his spider powers are a little less powerful due to budget constraints for the show, which is a hilarious reason. But to make up for that, he utilizes a whole mech named Leopardon, Power Ranger style, with arm rockets, a giant sword, and a boomerang. Classic. He uses Leopardon and his spider abilities to fight the Iron Cross Army. It's a group of suspiciously human-looking aliens from an unnamed world who are led by, wait for it, Professor Monster. Due to his popularity and just how awesome he is, Takayuya Yamashiro has become an official character in the multiverse, coming from Earth 51778, fighting against the Inheritors alongside the Spider Army, and he is set to appear in the second animated Spider-Verse movie, which I am pumped to see.
Halfway through into number 5, Captain America. Within the pages of Civil War II, we expected a battle much like the last Civil War, with moral alignments being similar along with a couple deaths. However, we were shocked when a battle between heroes was interrupted. This vision that took us away from the action actually ended with an image of Miles Morales holding a dead Captain America. It seemed to be that Miles had also killed him, with blood dripping out of his hand and covering his suit. Would this really come to pass though? Civil War II was based on the belief in using the visions of an inhuman known as Ulysses to prevent disasters before they occurred, and heroes that felt taking action based on these prophecies were irresponsible, which is where this vision of Miles killing Cap came from, since these visions resulted in preventing multiple tragedies but also got War Machine and Hulk killed. But we did see an explanation play out in Secret Empire number 7, when a rage-filled Spider-Man nearly beat Captain America, who was remade by Hydra using the Cosmic Cube, to death after Cap had killed Black Widow. But that's all in the past. 5 years in the past to be exact. In it for Wonder Woman. Despite Marvel and DC always being viewed as rivals, they have had multiple occasions where they've had to come together. One such time was in the Superman and Spider-Man comic, which saw the two heroes join together to take on Dr. Doom. The Hulk and Wonder Woman also made an appearance in an attempt to satisfy more fans, and so we could hope that Superman and Hulk would dish it out. However, Dr. Doom very briefly got Spider-Man and Wonder Woman to fight because he said the two were enemies. And while Wonder Woman believed him, Spidey is from this universe, so he knows better than to take Dr. Doom at his word. So Diana tried to capture the bug in her net, which in this case is a giant lasso that makes you tell the truth. But Spider-Man ended up gaining the advantage by simply turning off the lights and letting his Spidey sense do the work, after dodging the lasso quite a bit, might I add. Spider-Man ended the fight by simply tapping her on her shoulder and basically saying, "See, I could kick your right now, but I'm not. I'm one of the good guys." And that was enough for Diana to stand down, apparently. Getting close to the end in number 3, Hulk. Usually when Spidey fights someone stronger or more powerful than himself, he needs to think on his feet and outsmart them in some way. And you think that would be easy with the Hulk, given that he's just a giant brute with anger issues. But actually, that's not how this one played out at all. In True Believers Spider-Man vs. the Hulk number 1, Hulk challenged Spider-Man at a horrible time. At least, a horrible time for the Hulk. Since Spider-Man had just acquired a new set of abilities which increased his strength, speed, and gave him the ability to go airborne without webs. Spider-Man at this point was actually stronger than the Hulk, so he was trying to avoid a fact for lack of causing permanent damage. Unaliving him, if you will. But when Hulk started to endanger nearby kids, Spider-Man punched him and literally sent him into space. Since he was outside Earth's atmosphere, Spider-Man realized that he wasn't coming back down and flew up to help him, bringing him back down to Earth where he could breathe and not, freeze to death. It's pretty hardcore. Penultimately, in at number 2, Superboy. Marvel vs. DC is one of the best crossovers when looking at these lists. The fights from that crossover were decided by votes, so with Spider-Man being the most popular character Marvel has ever released, you can be sure that he'd end up winning against Superboy, despite the potentially unrealistic scenario that caused. However, it was explained away pretty easily when Superboy broke a water tower and flooded the roof they were fighting on. All it took after that was a conveniently placed high voltage box and some crashing to end the fight for Superboy. I don't know if Spider-Man was aware of this vulnerability, but either way, it went how it went. It also feels like I should mention that the Spider-Man fighting Superboy was Ben Reilly, the Spider-Man clone who goes on to become the Scarlet Spider. And DC fans don't seem to like it when you bring up this fight, with multiple users on a certain forum telling someone who mentioned it to jump on a bed of nails, which I have to say, I've heard better insults, come on. Finally, in at number 1, Silver Surfer. Sure, Hulk is strong and Superboy is part Kryptonian, but Silver Surfer is literally a cosmic being, a herald of Galactus. This man is nuts. And while yes, the fight with him may not really have been there overall, Spidey still technically came out on top, and that's what matters. In Silver Surfer number 14, the flying second place Emmy had a crossover encounter with Spider-Man while surfing over the city, and cause plot to make characters fight, a misunderstanding ensued. So Spidey immediately attacked the Silver Surfer. Let's be honest, on a good day, Surfer would usually just obliterate Spider-Man no problem, or just like flick him and he'd be fine. But on this occasion, the Surfer was actually already weak from a previous encounter, and on top of that, he just didn't want to fight. The Silver Surfer repeatedly tried to avoid battling Spider-Man and even saved Spidey from falling off a building, but Spider-Man wouldn't let up, knocking the Surfer off his board and taking the fight to him on the rooftops. Silver Surfer finally just got fed up with the violence and then made a decision to retreat, but first had to save a child who had taken his board. Come on, you could have at least given the kid a few minutes. In at 10, Peter Parker. With Miles having all the powers of Spider-Man with a couple extra to boot, it's bound to be expected that he would eventually surpass his idol slash mentor Peter Parker. However, we expected it after some training and a lot of experience. We see this come to pass though in the pages of Spider-Man. Miles and Peter run into each other in costume and they don't know each other's identity. So Pete demands that Miles unmask himself and, state his name. However, they get into a bit of an altercation because of that. And thanks to the help of a few additions Miles made to his suit, including stingers that cause paralysis and electrified webbing, Miles does end up gaining the upper hand and knocking Peter down. Which I have to say shouldn't really have been the case. Like, they should have shown us that the more experienced Spider-Man could still win, since experience is the real currency of the world, but nonetheless, it happened, so it goes on the list. In at 9, Deadpool. Deadpool is such a charismatic character that you'd think he'd pair perfectly with the quick-witted, constantly quipping webhead. However, in one episode of the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, Peter was introduced to the one and only Wade Wilson, the merc with a red leather-covered mouth. Kinky. The fight quickly turns into Peter and Wade literally slapping each other, so it's safe to say that this is bound to be interesting. However, Deadpool somehow pulls Peter into his mind, turning the fights from a fisticuffs to Deadpool hunting a Spider-Man whale with a harpoon, a la Lewis Brinley, and getting trampled with giant animals and verbal puns that caused physical harm. Deadpool is literally a bard using vicious mockery in this scene, and I don't think that anyone can fight me on that point. Straight up, this whole episode is hilarious, and the fact that Deadpool can't say the word kill just makes me think about YouTube censors. So it's relatable too. And at 8, Fantastic Four. In the Amazing Spider-Man issue 1, we get thrown right into the action with a crossover with the Fantastic Four. But not a fantastic crossover, since the group was actually in the midst of fighting Spider-Man. Spidey took on all 4 members at once, webbing them all up in a way that disabled their powers, including basically hog-tying Mr. Fantastic. The thing is, no pun intended, this fight was all Spider-Man's fault. He wanted to join the Fantastic Four, and figured the best way to convince them to let that happen was to infiltrate their base and kick their asses. However, he learns that joining the team won't actually make him any money, so he called them cheap and leaves, which I find utterly hilarious. He hit the Human Torch with a baseball bat made of web, for crying out loud. How is a 5th member supposed to join the Fantastic Four? Wouldn't it be like the Fantastic Five at that point? Or is Ben getting kicked out? He can go be somebody's pet rock, right? And at 7, Iron Man. Iron Man and Spider-Man may have a father-stepson-like bond in the MCU, however, things in the comments are much more professional than that, aside from the Iron Spider storyline, I guess. There are multiple instances of Iron Man and Spider-Man fighting and Peter coming out on top, like in Amazing Spider-Man number 536, where he had some assistance from the Venom symbiote and actually exploded the Iron Man suit from the inside out. This was during the Civil War storyline where Tony believed that heroes needed to register their secret identities to be able to continue fighting. After this, however, Spidey does join Iron Man's team and reveals his identity as a result. This then leads to the One More Day storyline that some people believe to be the story No Way Home is inspired by. However, now Spidey takes on Iron Man as Peter Parker, using his organic webbing to string him up real good. There was also the Amazing Spider-Man number 588 fight where Tony shuts down the Iron Spider suit with a voice command, but Peter had built in a counter voice command and surprises Tony, managing to web him up and flee. The counter voice command, I guess, was also surprised. So that's pretty funny. And at 6, X-Men. This is certainly another interesting number, since Spider-Man had struggled against singular X-Men before, such as Nightcrawler and Wolverine. However, in the Secret Wars storyline, he took on the whole X-Men team at once and won. In Secret Wars number 3, Spider-Man was eavesdropping on the X-Men to learn their plans. When he heard meeting with Magneto among other things, he decided to drop in and say hi. I guess his body and powers just go into overdrive when he fights teams because, just like with the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man was easily able to dodge Wolverine, Nightcrawler, and more, even though he struggled one-on-one. He really wrecked them, webbing Colossus and Nightcrawler, hanging Rogue from the ceiling, and just obliterating the entire team. Even Wolverine pointed out that they were all lucky all he wanted was information and then an escape, because, quote, he really clobbered us. Halfway through, and at number 5, Venom 2099. Venom 2099 is actually Kron Stone, the son of Tyler Stone, and as revealed later on, the older half-brother of Miguel O'Hara, who is the Spider-Man of 2099. Talk about family issues. Kron became violent and brutal after suffering for years because of his abusive robot maid. Yeah, this is certainly an interesting origin. Either way, this all drove him into killing Punisher 2099's family. This was also before gaining any superpowers, since the encounter with Jake Gallows, who is Punisher 2099, nearly gets him killed. So Kron flees into the sewer, narrowly escaping with his life. And, since he was absolutely destroyed and hardly clinging to life, he ended up floating down the sewer, eventually running into this strange black ball. This black ball was actually the mutated form of the Venom symbiote that had somehow survived without a host all this time. The symbiote, who was also on the brink of death, bonded to Kron and they became Venom 2099. This new version of the Venom symbiote also had acidic saliva and blood. so that does make him more dangerous than the original Venom. But Miguel was still able to come out on top. Attaboy, Miguel. Spider-Man 2099's costume is so sick, man. And at 4, Carnage. When the Venom symbiote came to rescue its host Eddie Brock from jail, it left an asexually produced offspring behind. This spawn bonded to Cletus Cassidy, a renowned serial killer in the Marvel Universe, through a wound on his hand, merging with his blood and becoming red and black in color. Now going by the name of Carnage, Cletus became a deadly recurring enemy to both Spider-Man and Venom. Eventually, Carnage fought Spider-Man and actually beat him. Realizing that Carnage was another symbiote villain, Spider-Man enlisted the aid of Venom, who was actually retired at the time, to defeat him. After enlisting Venom's aid against Carnage, Spider-Man later used loud noises in an attempt to defeat both Cletus and Venom, which is a stone cold move. However, thanks to Cletus' psychopathic tendencies and the fact that he was created on Earth, he has a lot more abilities than his father, like shooting itself as a projectile and forming razor-sharp weapons to tear through both innocents and his enemies, with chef-like precision, may I add. Getting close to the end in at number 3, Atrocity. Introduced and only seen in the Spider-Man game Spider-Man Edge of Time from 2011, Atrocity was created after Anti-Venom went into a blind rage, accidentally knocking Otto Octavius and Walker Sloan into Walker Sloan's gateway. Time-traveling gateway, by the way. The three then fused in the space-time continuum. I tried getting Taylor to put this on a list for ages, so here I am putting it here because holy damn, this is a villain. Atrocity would occasionally attack Parker or O'Hara with its teleportation tentacles throughout their journey in the Alchemax building, until it eventually revealed itself and attacked Peter Parker. Atrocity was defeated but would later appear again, attempting to kill Peter Parker at the same time that the CEO of Alchemax was fighting Miguel O'Hara. We, as Parker, manipulated Atrocity into attacking electrified pillars, stunning it. Peter then took this opportunity to remove Atrocity's tentacles and send them through the time gateway. These tentacles were then used to drain the Alchemax CEO of his powers. After both Atrocity and the Alchemax CEO, who is revealed to be Peter Parker, were vulnerable, they were knocked into the gateway together simultaneously, resetting the timeline. This absolute monstrosity is also able to teleport himself through time and space, in the addition to all of his powers. So yeah, an atrocity for sure. Penultimately, in at number 2, Red Goblin. After the collapse of S.H.I.E.L.D., the Carnage symbiote was secured in the Lockbox, a privately run vault at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. Agents Crane and Coleman, though, infiltrated the Lockbox and stole the symbiote, delivering it to their employer, Norman Osborn. After receiving the symbiote, Osborn bonded with it to become the new Carnage, hoping that it would be the key to regaining his Green Goblin persona. While the symbiote initially seized control of him, Norman offered to teach it more nuanced and sadistic ways to kill people, an offer that the symbiote eagerly accepted, turning over control to its new host, restoring his appearance and purging his body of the nanites, preventing him from augmenting himself with the Goblin formula. Osborn then used the symbiote to kill Phil Urich, and after pretending to be mortally wounded in a rematch against Spider-Man as the Green Goblin, unveiled his new partner by transforming into the monstrous Red Goblin. Osborn used the symbiote to great effect, incapacitating Spider-Man's allies and loved ones, and bonding a portion of it to his grandson Normie Osborn to turn him into the Goblin Child. Spidey was only able to defeat Red Goblin by taunting Osborn, saying that killing him in that form would only give Carnage the credit and not him, which caused him to rip off the symbiote. Then Spider-Man was able to destroy it. Finally, and at number 1, Graviton. If you're not familiar with Graviton, just know that he's essentially Magneto, but with gravity instead of metal, which is already making you think, oh, and that's exactly right. During the Axe of Vengeance crossover storyline, Graviton essentially crushed Spider-Man in their first encounter, only for Spider-Man to come back and absolutely wipe the floor with him when he got the Captain Universe powers. But that may seem a little cheap when talking about a list of Spider-Man villains. So, how about when Graviton was a part of a group of villains that sought revenge on Spider-Man following the loss of his cosmic powers? Spider-Man was still able to defeat Graviton without the power cosmic. During the fight though, Graviton actually disabled Spider-Man's gravity, sending the web slinger floating up into the sky. But Spider-Man was able to web onto a passing plane before he actually got too high. And then when Spidey got back to the ground and to the fight, he took an unprotected by gravity Graviton out with one single punch. So needless to say, Spider-Man has some pretty sick licks to lay out. And at 10, Chameleon. Being the first villain Spider-Man ever faced way back in Amazing Spider-Man #1 in 1963, I think Chameleon is more underrated than he should be. Being able to look like anyone at any time is pretty damn overpowered, especially when you can use it to look like Spider-Man and use suction cups to stick to walls, even if that's slightly unrealistic. This character is especially powerful when he has superpowers, like in the 90s animated Spider-Man series, where he could simply look at you and end up transforming into you. That's actually insanely overpowered when you look at it like that, since he can also transform his clothes in that show. He could be fleeing from Spider-Man and then turn the corner and be anyone, so it's certainly someone to fear, unless they're the original version who has to use disguises and makeup to look like anyone they want, since that process takes time and it can't really be turned on or off at will. In at 9, Mysterio. First appearing in the Amazing Spider-Man #13 from 1964, Quentin Beck does not possess any superhuman abilities. He is a formal special effects artist, illusionist, and actor who uses his talents to commit crimes. He is a founding member of the Sinister Six as well, which is an impressive feat on its own considering how he has no powers. In the first battle with Spider-Man, after he frames Spider-Man for robbing the Midtown Museum, Mysterio obstructs the hero's spider sense with gas and dissolves his webbing with chemical abrasive. However, Spider-Man tricks Mysterio into revealing that he was the actual one who robbed the museum. Then Spider-Man revealed that he had captured that moment on tape. Mysterio was then sent to jail, blaming Spider-Man for his ruined career. However, the abilities of Mysterio are actually really impressive, with a lot of his powers seemingly only being able to be accomplished with CGI and post-production rather than with practical effects, which is what he was using. And I was actually going to be a special effects artist. I even started going to school for it, so trust me, his stuff is absolutely insane. And at 8, Venom. The symbiote that later became known as Venom was created by the Dark Elder God Null on a desolate nameless planet, where it saved a group of newborn baby rodenttoid aliens by bonding to them and transforming them into apex predators. The symbiote's first human host though was Deadpool, who came across its prison while on Battleworld and, hoping for a makeover, wore the creature for a few minutes before realizing it was alive and trying to take over his mind. Concerned that his insanity would adversely affect it, Deadpool returned the symbiote to its prison moments before the arrival of Spider-Man, whose own suit had been damaged in the battle that was going on outside that Deadpool just seemingly was ignoring. Spider-Man had found the prison module that the symbiote was trapped in and activated the machine, which released the symbiote in the form of a black sphere. When Spider-Man touched the sphere, it covered his body and transformed into the iconic black and white costume with large white spider emblems on the chest and back derived from Null's dragon emblem actually. Venom, even though the concept was bought from a fan for what would now be worth $550, became one of, if not the most iconic Spider-Man villain, and with the ability to block out the spider sense, it's a surprise Peter even managed to come out on top. And at 7, Spider Carnage. Spider Carnage is my favorite alternate version of Spider-Man. From what I could find being introduced in the Spider-Man animated series in the 1990s, this version of Peter Parker shared most of his life with his actually good counterpart. However, the difference between the two was that at some point Aunt May also died, being buried next to Uncle Ben. But thanks to some messing around with interdimensional portals, a version of the Carnage symbiote sensed Peter's anger and combined with him, turning him into Spider Carnage, a villain set on revenge and the destruction of all realities. Peter Parker with the Carnage symbiote and then a desire to destroy reality, oh my god. However, he was ultimately defeated when the main series Peter brought the Uncle Ben from another universe to talk to Spider Carnage and actually brought him down and made him sacrifice himself to save all reality. Damn, I love this show, I really do. If you haven't seen it, it's on Disney+. Please watch it if you can, it's so good. And at 6, Morlun. First appearing in Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2 number 30 in 2001, Morlun is one of the most influential Spider-Man villains of all time. Morlun is potentially the biggest threat Spider-Man has ever faced, even if he isn't the most powerful, since defeating him ended up requiring a whole multiverse of spider people, or as the comics were calling them, spider totems, to take him down. Coming from Earth 1, Morlun uses these spider totems to stay alive, feeding on their energy and casually just hopping around from universe to universe, squashing their spider person. This guy is the backbone of the Spider-Verse concept, and a load of spider totems had to team up in order to actually beat him, but not without massive casualties. So definitely a powerful villain that ended up losing overall, but maybe I guess he didn't lose since he did kill off multiple spider people before his actual defeat. Well, I mean, I guess it depends on how he looks at defeat and what his definition of the term is, since some people could consider killing one person a success, so who knows?
Number 5. The Spider of Earth 15. There are a lot of characters who go by the Spider. But specifically, I'm talking about the one that's bonded with the Carnage symbiote who comes from Earth 15. The Spider of Earth 15 is a much more sadistic, sociopathic, red-headed version of Peter Parker, which is proven by the fact that he has been sentenced to a total of 67 life sentences in prison for the crimes he has committed. To make him just a bit more lovable, he has a sense of humor very much like that of Deadpool. The Spider was introduced in Exiles number 12 and was a big part of the reality-conquering Weapons X team featured in it, being a sometimes leader of that team. As a Carnage-bonded sociopath, he was pretty powerful, but he was nonetheless sent to the afterlife by a blast from Firestar in Exiles number 44. Number 4. Poison. From one symbiote to another. Every time that pesky Venom symbiote would try to merge with Peter Parker, he would only get halfway before Peter could repel him. Now, what happens if Peter Parker is defeated by Venom, who completely bonds with him? In the What If Spider-Man the Other story, after Peter is defeated by Morlun and cocoons himself under Brooklyn Bridge, he is offered the chance to be resurrected by the Spider God. But instead of allowing this, he refuses and is ejected from his cocoon non-resurrected. Cut to Venom, who, being Spider-Man's crazy ex-girlfriend, senses what is happening and completely ditches his current host. He intercepts Peter's body and after months of struggling, fully bonds to Peter. Now, Peter has all the fully realized powers that come with being a symbiote, but he actually has stingers that are capable of piercing the skin of Luke Cage, which is pretty insane. Number 3. Spider-Hulk. The second Spider amalgam here. Spider-Man of the Immortal Hulk with Great Powers story is granted the alter ego of the Hulk after Loki magically transferred the Gamma power to him. So it's Spider-Man's relative spider powers mixed with an unstoppable green monstrosity with the temperament of a toddler. It's actually really cool. Eventually, the power of the Hulk is switched back to Banner with the help of the Fantastic Four and Banner's own genius. It's a short little story that seems almost self-contained, but it's an insanely cool one, and a Spider-Hulk would be an incredibly powerful character if he were to show up again and had more time to hone his abilities and temper tantrums. Number 2. Ghost Spider. The last Spider-Man mashup with other heroes, but nonetheless possibly one of the most powerful potential mashups. Also, in my opinion, the coolest looking one. Also, it appears that Uncle Ben leaving this plane of existence is actually a really good thing. See, on Earth 11638, Ben never loses his life to a mugger, and he helps train Peter with his powers and helping him form Parker Industries. Peter and Uncle Ben end up building a machine that allows Peter to lure alternate versions of Spider-Man to this reality where he absorbs their powers to increase his own. That kinda took a dark turn, didn't it? But when he tried to do this to the apparently most powerful Spider-Man from Earth 616, he is de-lifed and his soul is sent to hell, where, with the assistance of the Infernal Hulk, he is fused with the spirit of vengeance, becoming the Ghost Spider. If you know anything about Ghost Rider, you know how actually insanely powerful he is, even going toe-to-toe with Galactus at one point. So yeah, this Spider-Man / Ghost Rider guy is potentially extremely powerful. Number 1. Cosmic Spider-Man. There was a point in time when Peter Parker of Earth 616 absorbed the Enigma Force and became the most powerful version of Spider-Man we have ever seen, even capable of punching the Hulk into orbit. In the mainline continuity, he doesn't have it for very long, but on Earth 13, he kept the powers and became the hero Captain Universe. So, this Peter Parker has all the usual Spider-Man powers, but also now has cosmic awareness where he can sense things on a subatomic level and from crazy distances. He has energy manipulation, giving him energy blast and flight. He also used his abilities to manipulate matter, making his webs as strong as adamantium, or even changing their shape altogether. His universe became a safe haven for all the Spider-Men when the Inheritors were hunting them, because Captain Universe could defeat them, and his cosmic powers are gone when he leaves that dimension. Unfortunately, he is consumed by Solus, who used the life force basis of his powers against him in Amazing Spider-Man number 11 in 2014. He's still cool though. Number 10. Peter Parker of Earth 92100. You'd think the addition of extra arms for a Spider-Man would be an added benefit. When it happened to Peter in the 616 universe, he panicked and got rid of it with the DNA of Morbius. Understandably. But on Earth 92100, Morbius did not live long enough to help Peter, being eaten by sharks of all things. And since no one else could, Peter kinda had to just deal with it. Turns out, during a fight with Doc Ock, after Peter embraced his extra appendages, they actually give him a distinct advantage. They actually grant him much more strength and agility, and using them, he is even able to save Gwen Stacy from her demise. Unfortunately, they don't really protect him from the inheritors. Spider Limbs here sacrifices himself to save Spider-Man 2099 and Lady Spider in Spider-Man 2099 Volume 2 Number 6 in 2014. Number 9. Spider Assassin. Do you know how effective Spider-Man would actually be if he was a little less moral but still a crime fighter? Pretty effective. And while we've seen a few different examples of this, I chose to pull from What If? Spider-Man vs. Wolverine number 1, where we are introduced to Spider Assassin. In his universe, with great power comes great responsibility and greater enemies, which led this Peter of Earth 8351 to leave New York to protect his family. He joined up with Wolverine, and likely because of this friendship, he is much less opposed to sending criminals to the afterlife. He's also almost always serious, not resorting to quips and jokes to cope with situations anymore, which is reflected in his costume, which is a much darker look, especially with those black eyes. I really dig it. His web shooters have also been shown to shoot black webs in some panels, and they also include firearms. He is an effective addition to the Spider Army when it was formed, and an extremely effective Spider-Man indeed. Number 8. Spider-Man. Alright, yeah. Nope, not a fan of this one. You ever seen those videos of people finding spider nests where it's literally a swarm of spiders? Yeah, okay, imagine that, but they're superpowered and come together to take on a human form. Now you've got the terrifying Spider-Man, which, side note, that's a great name. In Spider-Geddon number 3 of 2018, we are introduced to a colony of radioactively powered spiders who consumed a high school boy by the name of Peter Parker when he fell into their enclosure at Horizon Labs. After consuming Peter, the spiders gained a sort of hive mind in Peter's image and began fighting crime in cruel York of Earth 11580. Other than his usual Spider-Man powers and the benefits of being a swarm of spiders, the colony is also able to poison its victims with a bite, or, if they're hungry for power, devour them whole. And it's incredibly hard to actually de-life this guy, as even a single spider being alive means technically Spider-Man is also still alive and can multiply to rebuild itself. Number 7. Spider UK. The first Spider-Man mashed with another Marvel hero. These mashups always make for powerful characters. Basically, Spider UK is William Braddock, hailing from Earth 833. If you haven't gathered from the Braddock namesake, Spider UK is what would happen if Spider-Man was Captain Britain. As such, he is part of the Captain Britain Corps, being introduced in the Edge of Spider-Verse Volume 1. He is also part of the Spider Army put together to take on the Inheritors, and a pretty important part of it, he was not only an amazing leader but also had a very useful dimension hopping ability. Unfortunately, this Spider-Man didn't actually have a spider sense, which is probably what allowed him to be de-lifed by an attack from behind in Spider-Geddon number 1. Number 6. Spider-Man 2099. Probably one of the most loved characters on this list. The Spider-Man of Earth 928, Miguel O'Hara, or as he's better known, Spider-Man of the dystopian future of 2099. This version of Spider-Man has many similar abilities to 616 Peter Parker, but some that are not so similar. He has super speed, which is actually capable of somehow creating a decoy. His spider sense allows him to telepathically communicate with others. He has accelerated vision, he has retractable talons, and also has fangs that he can use to paralyze others. And he has the famously disgusting organic spider silk spinnerets on his wrists. He first appeared as a preview in Amazing Spider-Man number 365 in June of 1992, and in his own series in Spider-Man 2099 number 1 in September 1992, and he is a titanically awesome character.
Coming in at number 5, we have the Spider-Man suit of the year 2099. Unlike most of the suits on this list, this one was actually used by Miguel O'Hara, the Spider-Man of the future, rather than Peter Parker, and thus has some unique features that Peter likely never even considered. Made of unstable molecule technology that prevents the fabric from ripping even when Miguel's spider talons are used, the suit also comes with a web-based cape that allows the Spider-Man of the future to glide alongside his usual swinging and wall crawling, and helping him more easily navigate the airborne traffic of the year 2099. Coming in at number 4, we have the Iron Spider costume. Developed by Tony Stark after Spider-Man had a particularly damaging run-in with the villain Morlun, the Iron Spider costume saw Peter Parker adopting a red and gold color scheme in the months leading up to Civil War. Much more heavily armed and defended than his usual outfit, the Iron Spider costume also came with 3 mechanical spider arms that Peter could use to reorient himself or attack an enemy during combat. And while Peter would eventually abandon this suit for his more traditional outfit following his decision to switch sides in Civil War, this costume continues to be a fan favorite as it continues to show up every now and then in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Coming in at number 3, we have the iconic symbiote suit, aka the being that would eventually become Venom. First introduced as just a new, darker costume for Spider-Man to wear as a bit of a change-up, the suit was eventually revealed to actually be an alien life form that had attached itself to Peter Parker. While he would eventually get rid of it due to this revelation and thus kickstart a decades-long rivalry with Venom, this suit did have its benefits for Peter's crime-fighting life. The symbiote made Peter much stronger than usual and even improved the quality of his webbing, all of which would unfortunately come back to haunt him once Venom was capable of wielding those powers as well. Coming in at number 2, we have the Fear Itself suit. Hailing from an event also known as Fear Itself, this epic story in the Marvel Universe saw the Asgardian god of fear known as Serpent attacking the Avengers. Made by Tony Stark as part of an assortment of upgrades meant to help the Avengers take on a literal god, Spider-Man's new suit took the design of his classic outfit but molded it out of Uru, the very same metal used to form Thor's hammer Mjolnir. With this metal also forged into spider talons at the end of Peter's wrists, the Fear Itself suit is one of the strongest that Spidey has ever had made for him, only topped by a single instance that was a bit more than just a costume upgrade. That's right, coming in at our top spot, we have the outfit of Captain Universe as worn by our beloved Peter Parker. One of the oldest beings throughout the entire Marvel Universe is the Enigma Force, the representation of light that stands against the symbiote god Null and his forces of darkness. The Enigma Force would gift all of its strength to a champion chosen to represent its light, and on one particularly notable occasion, that champion was Spider-Man. Now capable of flight, shooting energy blasts from his hands, and being nearly indestructible, Spider-Man only wielded the power of Captain Universe for a short time in canon, but was still capable of defeating a massive Tri-Sentinel and accomplishing feats that the normal Peter Parker could scarcely dream of, ensuring that this costume is definitely the most powerful that Spider-Man has ever worn so far.